Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. 8:30 p.m. Monday, the 25th of January 2021. It's the prodigious, the prominent Professor Johnson at Proclamation News and P in Professor, with a capital P in Proclamation, with capital P in Provocative, with capital P in Providing, with capital P in Progression, capital P in Persuasive, capital P in Punctuation, capital P in Propaganda. Thank you all for coming in today. Hopefully we can build and eventually get a bigger audience. That's what I keep saying in the day. I want more people to help share Proclamation News and Gavin's. You know, this is news, front bench politics all the time. I'm giving you day-to-day regime of the UK politics and Essex Live. You might listen in, you might find something like weather, climate change, a hazard to your family. You need to stay on board, stay with me, listen in, try and get other people to come by, listen to the criminology that's going on in our communities. Also, poverty, such as the pandemic, influenza. Everyone's in poverty in a minute, poverty stricken. We've got the general election supposed to happen last year. Because of the lockdown, it didn't quite happen. But the way it's going to happen is the way I'm going to tell you. It's exactly what you need to listen in. Without me telling you, you're not going to know how to vote at the up and coming election. The Electoral Commission is done online. So the Electoral Commission is done online. It's called electoralcommission.org.uk. You want to vote? electoralcommission.org.uk. Up and coming elections. In this section, objectives for well-run elections in the current public health context. There are different types of elections which take part across the UK. These elections may be nationwide, such as UK parliamentary general election. In a devoted nation, such as the Scottish Parliament, Senedd, and Northern Ireland Assembly elections, local, such as local elections. By-elections in Scotland. Local council by-elections are taking place across Scotland in autumn and winter 2020. May elections 2021. A number of elections are scheduled to take place on 6th of May 2021, including those postponed in May 2020. These are local council elections in England, local and combined authority mayoral elections, Mayor of London, and London Assembly elections. Police and Crime Commissioner elections in England and Wales, Senedd Sumaru Welsh Parliamentary election, the Scottish Parliamentary election. Elections in your area. You can put in your postcode, see who's going to be up for vote in your area. Related content. Register to vote. Which elections you can vote in? Voting in person, by post, or proxy. If none of you sign up to any party conference, I'm going to give you mine, hereditary for my grandfather. Fighting under Winston Churchill. So we've got significance why I vote for Conservative. And my surname is Johnson through, marriage and whatever. Mum was an Edwards. Here we go. Conservatives. Boris Johnson become part of the world's oldest political movement. Which membership is right for you? If you're living abroad, use the button for you to click here and join a Conservative from abroad. Under 26 is £5 per year. Standard membership is £25 per year. Armed Forces, remember the Armed Forces is £15 per year. What your membership gets you, it helps Conservative win elections. In leadership elections, take part in our campaign groups. Come to local conference. Get the latest from inside the party. Influence party policy. Connect with local Conservatives. As a member, you become part of your local association, support local campaigns, and attend social events with members. Stand in for election. Members have the opportunity to stand in for election as Conservatives. So if you decide that you want to take part in a democracy, you can. There you go. I'm going to give you a Political Parties Elections and Referendums Act 2000. Under the Political Parties Elections and Referendums Act 2000, you must be on an electoral register in the UK, excluding Channel Islands and the Isle of Man, in order to make a donation of more than £500. If you donate more than or £1,500 to an individual association over a calendar year, we are obliged under the Political Parties Elections and Referendum Act 2000. To report such a donation to the Electoral Commission, information, please see electoralcommission.org. The Conservative Party reserves the right not to accept a donation or application for membership. Member terms and conditions. Application for membership of the Conservative Party online through the party website www.conservatives.com or via Conservative Campaign Headquarters, 4 Matthew Parker Street, London. It's subject to review by the party, its constituency associations before final approval. Final approval of online or central applications or non-approval will be committed soon as possible after the application is made. In donating more than £500, the donor must be registered on the electoral roll at the time of donation. Applicants will not be considered where the applicant is a member under suspension, a former member currently expelled for the party. We will contact you using details provided to keep you informed about the party and your membership. For more information, we'll process your data and rights. You can see our privacy policy at www.conservatives.com/privacy. All party members are bound by general terms and conditions here. Just before we go on to showbiz, we've got a short break.
Prime Minister of the United Kingdom for 5 more years now has an absolute majority. If you look at the numbers, bearing in mind the Speaker, the Deputy that does not take their seats, he has got 323 seats in Parliament. That gives him an absolute majority.
And congratulations. A minute ago from the daughter of the President of the United States, Ivanka Trump. Congratulations, Prime Minister Boris Johnson. Right on cue.
He has succeeded where his predecessor Theresa May has failed, and for somebody who famously said that he once wanted to be king of the world and perhaps was best known as the man so desperate to be Prime Minister that everybody knew about it and talked about it ad nauseum until he became Prime Minister, then when he couldn't pass his deal, some people were saying, will he be the shortest-lived Prime Minister in British history? We all know his ambitions have been vindicated, and he'll be around for some more time.
And depending on your definitions, the Conservatives now have 326 seats, which is a true absolute majority, even if you add Sinn Féin, the Speaker, the Downing Street Cat. Nick Robertson is at the Boris Johnson seat of Uxbridge, his constituency. So, Nick, you and I have sat and talked many nights and broadcast. We can now pretty much say Brexit is going to happen at the end of January.
Yeah, the Prime Minister's outlined it already. He said that we'll leave on the 31st of January, that they will have a Brexit budget in the middle of February. The coming year, 2020, will be the one where the new trade deal is negotiated with the European Union. There is a sort of a tripwire on that in July next year, if you will, that if an extension isn't asked for beyond the end of next year, that's a year from now, then Britain will leave the European Union, having completed the divorce part of it at the end of January this year and completed the new phase of the relationship or not by the end of next year. So yes, Boris Johnson has it. He's carried the day, and this, one has to say, is a remarkable and tremendous victory for him. There's absolutely no doubt about that. A thorough vindication for him and all those who stood by him in the party. What this means for the country, questions obviously about the union in Scotland, questions in Northern Ireland. There will be a large level of dissatisfaction with what the Brexit deal means for them, but it's going ahead. This is what Boris Johnson said, state opening of Parliament next week. He's talked about a vote on his deal before Christmas, and then the getting it into law by the end of January. It's happening. Richard?
Thank you.
Nick Robertson in Boris Johnson's constituency, thank you. Let's go now to Phil Black, who's in Jeremy Corbyn's constituency tonight, where the mood is vastly different. Phil, I've just heard that Dennis Skinner, a very famous member of Parliament for the Labour Party, particularly well known for his heckling in the chamber of the House of Commons, has lost to the Conservative Party, another symbolic defeat for Labour. Are calls growing for Jeremy Corbyn to step down with immediate effect?
Yeah, that's a hugely symbolic defeat for Labour at the end. But we spent time in Bolsover, Dennis Skinner's seat. To put that in some perspective, he's a titan of the Labour Party. He's represented that constituency for almost 50 years. He's in his late 80s. He would have been the longest serving MP if he'd been re-elected. A really strong old school Labour character, the Beast of Bolsover, he is known as, and he's now been defeated by a Conservative candidate, which is truly extraordinary. Here in Islington North, Jeremy Corbyn's constituency, well, we heard from Jeremy.
We'll come back to that. Dennis Skinner and Jeremy Corbyn, we'll come back to that advert in a minute. Thank you all so much for coming through. Got about 20 odd listeners that have come through and support the show. I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. No business like show business. So what, someone I hadn't heard in the headlines for a long time since, I was going to say Baywatch, non-Baywatch, since Peter Andre and Jordan himself. I hadn't heard from her for so long. Now, obviously, our ex-partners, so there are a couple of ex-partners as well that we've seen in the latest headlines. And obviously, I don't know if she's on her own now. I'm not sure. I've been following it that much, so I'm trying to find out what's going on. Kate Price on Harvey's terrifying move to a specialist college. When faced with having to move their disabled child to a different school or college, families face difficult decisions. Now reality TV star and ex-model Katie Price is on that journey with her eldest son Harvey, who's about to make that transition. It's, as a parent for a disabled child, it's when Dwight York is not much in contact with him because obviously chemistry imbalance in their relationship. They parted, didn't they? And don't think Dwight York's had much to do with Harvey. If that's something, we can't start pointing fingers. Law is a law to itself sometimes. You don't know what Dwight York's complications are, why he can't see him or what. I don't know. Anyway, but, it can leave a father or mother distraught in such circumstances. You've seen Katie Price had quite a lot of suffering mental health, especially relationships and stuff. Maybe because of stress of looking after a son that's not well. Who knows? Anyway, it was a quiet 18th birthday for Harvey. There were balloons in the garden and presents were opened, including a fog lunchbox and iPad for a treat. Katie took him to one of his favourite places, to the local train station. This is the best train ever. I love it, Harvey says, taking photographs. His birthday marks another milestone. It is time to leave school and find a college. A process the family has filmed for BBC One documentary Katie Price, Harvey and Me. It's pretty predictable to know what will happen with the other kids. Katie says, who has 4 other children. But with Harvey, it is not predictable because he's got complex needs. She says searching for a specialist college has been a new journey for her. It's not easy and it's terrifying. Harvey was born in 2002. He was diagnosed with a septo-optic dysplasia, a rare genetic disorder affecting his eyesight as well as autism, and Prader-Willi syndrome, which can cause learning difficulties and behavioural problems. He is unable to control his weight and requires 24-hour care. This is not straightforward where you can just choose a college, Katie says. They have to have the right nursing team and know how to deal with his challenging behaviour. In the UK, children with long-term health conditions are cared for by the Child Health and Social Care Services until they turn 18 and transfer to adult services. It's very good of, people play Katie Price down. It's very, very good that she's worrying about her needs of her son. That shows great parenting skills, doesn't it? She really needs to sit and think what she needs for her son. She's done a great job. But, consider what critics say about her. She's done a good job by Harvey, making sure he's getting looked after to the best of his ability. It can be a precautious moment and often involves a lot of upheaval, including meeting new teams and specialists. Like many families, the Prices have been warned the most suitable college may be a long way from their Essex home because there are few of them and they are widely dispersed. For Harvey, the most appropriate include those in Camden, Wales, Sunderland and Somerset. The distance and Harvey's age means he will become a full-time residential student, including weekends. To make sure they find the perfect home, Katie and Harvey have visited as many as possible. It was a process made difficult by COVID-19 and Katie having broken the bones in both her heels in a water park accident. Crisis point. He needs to have his independence and I think he'll enjoy it. Make friends, Katie says. I want him to be in a room with his mates while he plays keyboard and sings his songs. At Harvey's current school, he is a weekly boarder. Making a decision for him to board was difficult and prompted by the distress he felt at the daily travel from home to school and the impact on the family. I was at a crisis point, Katie says. It was affecting to other kids. It was danger zone for him, smashing the house up. I hated going to residential, I cried, but I saw he was happy there. As the documentary reveals, there are holes in the walls of the Price house where Harvey has punched him. His autism can lead to meltdowns when he becomes overwhelmed or distressed by a situation. For Harvey, loud noises like slamming doors can trigger this and lead him to hit his head or punch a wall. Common coping mechanisms. Harvey is a big lump. Not putting that in a rude, not being rude about that, but he's a big lad. You can see the damage that the boy could make. It is a situation Katie had to consider when they looked at colleges. Would Harvey be safe? Could the staff handle him? During a visit to the Orpheus Centre, a college in Surrey which provides therapy to disabled young adults through the performing arts, a loud, unexpected noise distressed Harvey and he threw his head repeatedly against the door. Katie told him to count to 10, control the stress, but another noise sounded and he kicked out. The staff encouraged him outside, where it was quieter, but it signalled the end of the visit. Katie was often touch Harvey or speak with him to maintain his calmness. The Jew banter constantly and have scripted phrases they say to each other. When Harvey says hip hip, Katie replies hooray. The scripting is sometimes considered similar to self-stimulatory behaviours that many autistic people like to use to relieve anxiety or show happiness. When they visited National Star College in Cheltenham, Harvey was distressed and worried he would have to stay overnight. He didn't want to get out of the car and whimpered again. Katie reassured him and encouraged him to wear his ear defenders because this isn't a regular day for Harvey. The teacher, Alice, showed him a social story with pictures of what he could expect from the hours ahead. She decided to begin at the end with goodbye. So Harvey, it was a difficult start, but when he visited the flats the students live in with their own bathrooms and kitchens and got to watch frogs and trains on the big screen in the centre room, he was won over. He described the college as wicked and excitedly said, "Yes, Mum." When asked if he'd be happy there, Katie says, "The reason I want him to go full-time residential is because some weekends they might have disco nights or bowling and he might want to go and do that and not just come home to me." It gives him a choice, but as far from a deal, it relies on much administration and local authority agreeing to find. You can imagine the distress. It must be hard for Katie Price, but a bit of relief that he can go and live his adult life, because as Katie knows, he's not going to be around forever. To get that bit of, to get a bit of respite, it's probably beneficial for the mother that's always stuck by him, It's hard to say goodbye to Jordan. It's not saying goodbye. It's just trying to get him a better life, make him more happier. It's a good thing what she's doing, You can't take that away from any mothers that have sat there by their son for all the struggles of his illness. You don't know how hard it is until until it's in your face, until you've got it, It's hard work. You've got other kids as well, She needs to be taken care of, and she's on her own. Lynette Barrett, Chief Operation Officer at the college, tells Katie, "We would put in the funding application to a local authority, and the application would detail everything that we are doing to provide for Harvey. For someone that is part-time student, that they may be £15,000 to £20,000 a year for a student that is full-time, all year round residential, with high healthcare needs. That could be up to £300,000 to £350,000 a year. It will be the prices local authority will make the decision on whether to fund it or may decide somewhere local is suitable. The approval depends on Harvey's need. Katie must ensure his education, health and care plan, EHCP, a legally binding document in England detailing the support he must receive, is up to date. Everything about Harvey is in that plan," she says. "It's so time consuming and you feel like you're alone. But Katie must detail Harvey's education, attainments, health problems and medication he requires, as well as tasks he completes, whether he can cook for himself, dress, make the bed and wash. The thought of Harvey leaving home is daunting for Katie, but a move she wants to pursue. As much as you smother your kids and you want them with all the time. You want to be with them all the time. Sometimes you have to let them go, just to give them a bit of space to go and explore. This year has been a challenging for the family. Harvey's class is extremely clinical, vulnerable, and has been shielding during the pandemic. He also spent some time in intensive care, and his health is a constant concern. With Harvey, his future is unpredictable. But I'll make sure that he is in a place where he thrives on happiness, excitement, joy, and he looks forward to waking up." Katie and Harvey have applied to National Star. They'll find out in March if they've been successful. Just listen to that. It makes you, these kids actually, it's not just Katie Price's son as well. It's a lot of kids in exactly the same position. But as they got the care and love of a mother that Kate Price has given him every step of the way, it's going to be hard for her to let him go and do his own thing. But he's grown into a man. She's got to let him see if he can be half normal in a nice mannerism. Because he's human. He's normal to us, but he's got a few mental impairments, unfortunately. But anyway, we're going to have a short break, ladies and gents. That is no business like show business. Kate Price.
Jeremy Corbyn was firstly the clear headline, that is that he's going but not yet. He's going to stick around, he says, while the party chooses a successor and enters a period of reflection, a process of reflection. But he wasn't feeling particularly reflective about this disastrous result. He certainly wasn't being humbled or contrite. What we heard was bitterness and excuses. He blamed Brexit.
How are you blessed? How are you doing,
the media's treatment of him and the party. He insisted that his policies are still popular. He did not acknowledge his leadership, particularly on the Brexit issue. He did not acknowledge the role that his party's radical left-wing policy platform might have played, or his own personal inability to sell it to the country, nor did he acknowledge his own unpopularity with voters of all persuasions and the possibility that just might have influenced the outcome as well. So he's going to stick around while the party chooses a new successor. That could take some time, and it is likely, I think, that some of the leading contenders in that coming leadership battle will be people who are close to Corbyn, politically and personally. And so it is perhaps possible that although Jeremy Corbyn is leaving the stage, the Corbyn project, which has been about reshaping Labour into a distinctly left-wing political party, well, that project may not necessarily be over despite tonight's result.
Thank you. Excuse me, Phil. We have 603 seats gone, so there's another 47 still to go. Anna Stewart is with us at the Results Centre. Show us the magnitude, if you can, of the Tory victory tonight that's given them an outright majority.
I can. I mean, look, 330. So the Conservative Party have already shot past that magic 326 number, and the gains just keep on coming. I'm going to flip the map over to the other side, and then I can actually compare how it looked in 2017, going into this election, to now. Now, you see this lovely big red patch here. This was the Labour red wall going from the north of Wales, through the Midlands, up into northeast England. These were seats, many of them held by the Labour Party for 100 years, sometimes even more. And the extraordinary thing is, if we go to 2019, you see how it has melted away into blue. As predicted, the Conservatives have knocked down this Labour red wall, and actually we're still getting some crucial results right now. We just had Newcastle under Lyme in the West Midlands. If we flip the screens over, I can show you how they voted. The Conservatives picking this one up, getting 52% of the vote. Look at the Labour share of the vote. They have 36%. That is a fall of 12% from 2017. And of course, this is because this is an area that voted to leave the EU in 2016. 62% is the estimate. Another interesting one that we just had, Dudley North, one of the biggest Labour seats since 1997. You can see how badly Labour have done. And I just wanted to highlight Dudley North as a particularly interesting seat because the Labour MP in Austin, who resigned over Labour leadership, over intolerance, he was actually a Eurosceptic. He did vote for Brexit. He was one of only 3 Labour MPs who voted for Theresa May's deal and also later on voted for Boris Johnson's New Deal. He is out of a seat tonight. He has been punished by, I think, Labour's stance on Brexit. Stephen, tell us more.
Yeah, very interesting, Dudley North. That is a perfect storm, if you like, that we've seen building against Labour tonight. There was frustration there about Jeremy Corbyn's lack of a clear Brexit plan in a constituency which really wanted very heavily to leave the EU. There was dislike of Corbyn personally, and there's that demographic change. We've been seeing a lot of seats. There used to be a big steelworks there in Dudley North, much as they did in Redcar, another Labour seat, long-time Labour seat in the northeast, which has gone to the Conservatives too. That Labour heartland of heavy industry, union workers, working class voters is disappearing. And that is, I think, going to be seen as a key factor behind this Labour victory. Not just Brexit, not just Corbyn, but the country has changed underneath the Labour Party, and they haven't been able to catch up.
And we saw some hints actually with this. Ian Austin, as I mentioned, was the Labour MP. He resigned from the Labour Party. He was very frustrated with how his party was dealing with Brexit. And he actually came out and supported the Conservative candidate going into this election, even though he wasn't standing. And the Brexit candidate, who was standing for the seat, he stood down to make way for the Conservatives too.
Well, I mean, that is almost unheard of. I can't think of any other example where a prominent member of a party has turned so publicly. I mean, he said, if it's your belief, you have to stand up in politics and make a statement. The voters of Dudley North made the statement. I mean, it's a great...
Talk about modern day politics. 25th of January 2021. Conservative government right now. Conservative, Liberal Democrats. Let's think about both subjects in one. I'll put both together. I like James O'Brien as well. I don't like Rachel Johnson. I like Boris Johnson, obviously. I like Rishi Sunak. Anyway, I'm not going to keep going on because I can say that a handful and a footful. Count my digits. I can count, I know many Conservative members. But talking about Conservative, modern day politics, putting Liberal Democrats and Conservative in a bunch together, working together, neoliberalism. You think you're sitting here now, you got a roof over your head, you get your bills paid for. Neoliberalism. Exactly what it says on the tin, isn't it? Neoliberalism. Research it, see what it means. Neoliberalism is essentially an internationally imprecise standing term for free market economics. Free market, getting your bills paid for, you don't have to go work. The government are supporting you while you're off work, you're having a free holiday. No one's thankful enough for what our government have done, for economic sciences in general, for conservatism, for libertarians and anarchists, for authoritarian and militarism, for advocates of the practice of commodification, for centre-left or market-orientated progressivism. There you go. So look, a fair trade and a free trade. You literally getting. People don't understand it. You think you can get a big lump sum of money to go on a free holiday. Not necessarily the case, is it? No, but if you could be saving towards a free holiday, I couldn't have used brain. But no, literally neoliberalism. You're getting your bills paid for. You're getting a roof over your head. You're getting food. If you've got a roof over your head and you've got food in the fridge, you're one of the wealthiest men in the world at the moment. Same way for alcoholism and narcotics. You're one of the wealthiest people alive. I'm just giving you, that's why I always got, you've got to look into things. Talk about socialists. Talking about, I like neoliberalism. I love the word neoliberalism. You hear me say that a lot in, recent talks and more modern talks as we move on to the future, working on progression. Talking flux with the flow, flux with the show. Anyway, back to UK politics. We're looking at the COVID-19 variant. Moderna vaccine appears to work against variants. I don't know, we talk about South African variant. I don't know how the professors and scientists can educate themselves to know it's come from South Africa, the variant. I don't know, and Brazil, the deadly ones. Moderna COVID vaccine appears to work against new, more infectious variants of the pandemic virus found in the UK and South Africa, say scientists from the US pharmaceutical company. Early laboratory tests suggest antibodies triggered by the vaccine can recognise and fight new variants. More studies are needed to confirm this is true for people who have been vaccinated. The new variants have been spreading fast in a number of nations. They have undergone changes or mutations that mean they can infect human cells more easily than the original version of coronavirus that started the pandemic. Experts think the UK strain, which emerged in September, may be up to 7% more transmissible. Current vaccines were designed around earlier variants, but scientists believe they should still work against the new ones, although perhaps not quite as well. There are already some early results that suggested the Pfizer vaccine protects against the new UK variant. For the Moderna study, researchers looked at blood samples taken from people who had received the recommended 2 doses of the Moderna vaccine. The findings are yet to be peer-reviewed, but suggest immunity from the vaccine recognises the new variants. Neutralising antibodies made by the body's immune system to stop the virus from entering the cells. Blood samples exposed to the new variants appear to have sufficient antibodies to achieve this neutralising effect, although it is not as strong for the South African variant for the UK one. Moderna says this could mean that protection against the South Africa variant might disappear more quickly. Professor Lawrence Young, a virus expert at Warwick Medical School in the UK, said this would be concerning. Moderna is currently testing whether giving it a third booster shot might be beneficial. Like other scientists, the company is also investigating whether redesigning the vaccine to a better match for the new variants will be beneficial. Stephen Bancel, Chief Executive Officer of Moderna, said the company believed it was imperative to be proactive as the virus evolves. UK regulators have already approved Moderna's vaccine for rollout on the NHS, but the 17 million pre-ordered doses are not expected to arrive until spring. The vaccine works in a similar way to Pfizer, one already used in the UK. More than 6.3 million people in the UK have already received the first dose of either the Pfizer or the AstraZeneca vaccine. We've got a lot more. We've got HuffPost, Essex Live, and Inside Westminster. COVID schools will be told of reopening plans as soon as we can. This is what we're all waiting for. Mothers that need respite while the fathers are out to work. I mean, I don't know if it's still traditional in a lot of households. A lot of women that I have been friends with over years are the ones, you know, they're the either B holder, they're the one that paying the bills, one about after their husbands, their boyfriends. Well, so they say. Who knows? I'm not gonna point fingers or say they do or don't or guess, because I don't acknowledge what goes on in people's homes. I see it say. Anyway, the government will tell teachers and parents when schools in England can reopen as soon as we can. The Prime Minister said, "This is, this is what everyone's waiting for." Boris Johnson, he's trying to do his best by the people. Absolutely. I mean, everyone's going, "Oh, we're now keep lockdown," but you'll be frying your hat off as soon as he says kids can go back to school. A bit of normality. MPs have called on the government to set out a roadmap for reopening amid concern for children's education. I mean, it's been understood already that the teachers will be getting their next vaccine. What about the kids going to school? That'd be a good idea, wouldn't it? Boris Johnson said he's understood why people wanted a timetable, but he did not want to lift restrictions while the infection rate was still very high. He cannot guarantee schools would reopen before April's Easter break. Mr. Johnson said, "We've now got the R number reproduction rate down below 1 across the whole country. That's a great achievement. We don't want to see a huge surge in infections just when we've got the vaccination program going so well and people working so hard. I understand why people want to get a timetable from me today. What I can tell you is what we'll tell you. Tell parents, tell teachers as much as you can, as soon as we can." He said the government would be looking at the potential of relaxing some measures before mid-February, with Downing Street clarifying that this meant looking at the data to decide what we may or may not be able to ease from 15th of February onwards. A further 592 people have died in the UK within 28 days of positive COVID tests, and another 22,195 cases have been recorded, according to Monday's government figures. Knackered and confused, that's just the parents. Will schools reopen before Easter? How is BBC helping homeschooling families? At Monday's Downing Street, the press briefing, Health Secretary Matt Hancock said almost 4 in 5 of the UK's over 80s have been had the vaccine, with nearly 6.6 million people in total having had their first dose. But he has said the NHS continues to under the intense pressure, with Jenny Harvey, Deputy Chief Medical Officer in England, saying that there are twice the number of people in hospital than we had in the first wave of the pandemic. It's worrying times. It makes you think, are we all going to end up catching COVID before it's too late, before we all had a vaccine? Most recent data for all nations is the 21st of January. Welsh figures include suspect cases. Robert Hawthorne, chairman of the Education Select Committee, told BBC Breakfast there was enormous uncertainty and called for the government to set out the conditions needed to be for pupils to return to schools. Conservative MP for Harlow suggested the government could consider tighter restrictions in other parts of society and the economy in order to enable schools to reopen. The MPs were enraged by reports over the weekend that schools might not be open fully after the Easter holidays. PM promises school updates as soon as we can. Ministers say it's the progress of the pandemic that will determine a decision rather than a pre-agreed timetable. Yet, whenever the government speaks, parents hear dates. Whether it's that situation will review that half term or a pledge to give 2 weeks notice when cases will come back. MPs are now pushing for more transparency from the government about how they access the data and some ideas between the school being mostly closed or totally open. The issue is a perfect metaphor for a situation facing the entire country. Too much hope breeds disappointment, but living with uncertainty is just as hard. As you come up with a plan, but it might have to be junked if the virus has other ideas. Children's Commissioner for England, Anne Longfield, joined for the call on clarity and told BBC children are more withdrawn. They are really suffering in terms of isolation. Their confidence levels are falling, and for some there are serious issues. Education Secretary Gavin Williamson said the government wanted to see all children back at the very earliest moment. Schools in England have been sent have been closed to most pupils since the national lockdown began on the 5th of January due to high levels of COVID transmission in the community. There have been calls for teachers to be vaccinated sooner, although it is not clear it would allow schools to open earlier. COVID death rates among educational professionals are not statistically significantly different to those in general population, according to the Office for National Statistics (ONS) data. But secondary school teachers appear to have elevated risks compared, particularly with people working in office-type jobs. Among secondary school teachers, COVID death rates were 39.2 deaths per 1,000 males, compared with 34, a 20 to 64, and 21.2 per 1,000 females, compared with 16.8. But the INS said it was not statistically significantly different than those of the same age and sex in the wider population. Do you know what it's saying? The 21. Well, just keep it at 20, round it off to 21. 21 females per every 100,000. So there's 10 100,000 in a million. So you do 10 times 2. That's 20. That's 200. Every 1 million is 200, and we've got 72 million people in the UK. Hazard a guess, you've got about 72 million. So you do 72 times 200. It's a hell of a lot. It's a substantial amount. It's a substantial amount. You're talking like 20,000 or 200,000. Yeah, I think it's about 200,000. Hazard of a guess, without a calculator. Schools remain closed in Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales until at least the February half term, with the Welsh First Minister saying it is unlikely all pupils will return after the break. Gemma Cocker from Brighton is one of many parents struggling to balance childcare, home learning at work. She says having to share her work with laptop with her son, who has already missed learning time after the family moved home and did not have internet access. We didn't have any internet. The school said they had reached their limit so much. Their limit, so they couldn't take them, he says. And because her children are young, she says, they're never just going to watch a classroom by themselves. You have to be with them the whole time. Kitty Jones, 11, is in her last year of primary school, and she says home learning is tricky because she is not used to using different mobile platforms like Google Classroom, and she wants to return as soon as possible. I still think that I'm learning a bit, but I don't think I'm learning as much as I would be in person. She tells BBC Radio 4 as well at one programme. Holly Agbuka, 18, is studying for A-levels, said it is quite stressful, learn at home, as it is a different environment. So it's not easy to be fully present in the lessons. But she says, whilst it is difficult working at home, I don't think it is worth the cost of reintroducing the virus into society, making things worse overall. There you go, people working from home. Sometimes working at home could be beneficial because around home life, obviously if you've got kids there, it can be hard working from home. Especially if it's like you're on call, taking calls and your children are not quite settled with their own work. You've got to work around your kids and keep your kids occupied. If your husband or your boyfriend goes out to work, maybe he works for Royal Mail, he's out of the house, your kids can't be then tuition, can they? They're going to be asking for your help, and you're trying to do, balance two things at once. It's almost impossible. So you can see why the mothers, in the critics, like they want their respite so they can do their work from home. It's not easy to keep your job going. Anyway, more from the HuffPost, ladies and gentlemen. More front bench politics from the HuffPost. Oh, my shoulder. Workers with COVID too scared to get tested over the fear of losing wages, Dido Harden says. Test and Trace chief says the problem is even bigger than a lack of isolation. People with COVID are too scared to come forward for a test because of their lack of government cash support, the head of Test and Trace has said. Baroness Dido Harding told a CBI webinar that the worst recent figures showed less than 60% of people were tested positive, followed advice to quarantine at home once contacted. But the Tory peer said the problem of people not taking the test was even more of an issue. Harden said it was up to the Chancellor Rishi Sunak to resolve the cash health problem, adding that the rollout of rapid testing in workplaces to help pick up systematic cases early would help too. Her remarks came days after Number 10 ruled out proposals from the Department of Health and Social Care to repay everyone a flat rate payment of £500 each if they were forced to quarantine at home. Asked about problems with financial support, Howell told CBR online event, the biggest challenge here is less people not following their isolation guidance. It is people not coming forward for tests in the first place. People who were scared that there isn't financial support. The biggest worry we have there is not so much people failing to follow isolation guidance, it's failing to come forward for a test in the first place. The latest data we have from Test and Trace would suggest that about just under 6% of people are following the advice to self-isolate for 10 days. The figure was a reference to evidence to MPs last November, when she said 59% were following the guidance on isolation. Harding signalled last summer that more than financial support was needed, and when asked if further help was needed, now she replied, it is a cross-government decision on how much financial support is offered. Very much one for the Treasury and the Chancellor. The government's £500 one-off payment for poor workers introduced in September for those told to self-isolate by human contact tracers and in December for those told to isolate by the NHS COVID app is out of reach for many employers. Ministers are looking at what further support to offer, but Downing Street last week ruled out and extending the payment to everyone. Harding said £500 payment had already shown an impact, but those ineligible for the cash as she urged employers to offer more support. I think anecdotally it has improved people's confidence, particularly in very low income groups, but you're outside of that group and you're still worried about the financial consequences of isolation. I'd say you're more dependent on how your employer treats you and how the government is going to. I would say that employers on this call, it's very important that you're encouraging people who work for you, who have the symptoms, think they might have COVID, to get tested and make sure that you provided the support so they can afford to take those days off work. Harding stresses people asked to self-isolate also need practical help with care responsibilities for children or elderly relatives, shopping and mental health support. The Test and Trace chief, whose service has come under fire for its low contact tracing rates and continued failure to meet PM's target of giving 100% of test results within 24 hours, said that rapid testing in workplaces was likely to remain in place over a medium to long term. We're very supportive of all employers rolling this out as part of their normal practice of the living with COVID. As the vaccine programme moves up, we will want to maintain things like regularly systematic testing and tracing as one of the last non-pharmaceutical interventions that we want to release. We'd much rather open up parts of the economy before you stop doing the testing. Shadow Health Secretary Jonathan Answorth said, for 10 months, we've been urging ministers to understand the stark reality that thousands of people lack of decent sick pay and support prevents them from self-isolating. We won't break transmission chains while ministers expect families to go hungry to stop spreading infection. To save lives and reduce hospitalisations, Boris Johnson must put in place decent financial support for people to isolate. Will the Prime Minister now listen to the head of his own test and trace system? A Number 10 spokesperson said, we made the 500 available to those in low incomes, and we've made an extra finance available to local authorities to give extra assistance. Earlier news research from the Office for National Statistics showed that those in low-paid sectors like hospitality, food and drink processing, transport and healthcare had a statistically significant elevated risk of dying from COVID-19 than workers. The GM union spoke out of the ONS figures found that at least 8,000 working age deaths were linked to COVID-19 in England and Wales in 2020. Occupations with the highest number of COVID-linked deaths were care workers and home carers, 347 deaths, taxi and cab drivers, 213 deaths, sales and retail assistants, 180 deaths, nurses, 157 deaths, and cleaners and domestic workers, 153 deaths. Dan Shears, GMB National Health Safety and Environment Director, said the deaths of 8,000 working age people is a devastating and bitter mistletoe that could have been avoided. Workers are still being forced to use inadequate PPE, and some people are attending work despite being infectious before they can afford to self-isolate. These are structural problems that have been mixed months ago. Let's talk about the fit to work regime that we're having a little bit of a insight what we had the last few days. We've got NHS workers, nurses, doctors. Look at the minorities they come from. They've got the BAME, black and Asian minority. We're looking at that. We're looking at the BAME, minority ethnics, black, Asian, minority ethnics. That's what BAME means. They're getting discriminated at work because they've got beards. That's their religion. To grow their beard is part of their religion. That's their religion. They got told to shave their beard. They're brought up by their family, their trait or their religion, their tribe or where they come from to grow their beard. And if they don't shave their beard, they can get fired from their job. It's a bit unfair. They're trained in their profession and they're taken on as whatever their religion, knowing their ethnicity, and then they're going to get sacked because they've got a beard. But a woman's allowed to wear a ponytail at work or long hair. Regardless if she's got it in a hairnet, it doesn't save, spread of a virus not going for a hairnet, because a hairnet's not going to save her from catching a virus. Do you know what I mean? Exactly that. So why does a man have to shave his beard? That should be their argument for unfair dismissal, if I'm totally honest. And that is God's honest truth. We talk about international bill of rights when we talk about equalities, gender equalities, straight down the middle. That's what they need to argue in that case, and they might come through with flying colours because it needs to be said and something needs to be done about it. It's a shock. I'm going to go live on my Facebook. It's a bit of a shock for me. I don't think everyone will agree with me on that one because you get quite a lot of fascist people. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's the prodigious, the prominent professor at Proclamation News and Gavins. I'm live on YouTube. I'm live on Castbox. I just want to talk about the BAME in the NHS group. The BAME in the NHS group. I find it absolutely contradicting the International Bill of Rights. Talking about contradiction on the International Bill of Rights and Equalities. So you've got the BAME, black, Asian, minority, ethnics, BAME, B-A-M-E, black, Asian, minority, ethnics. Working in a healthcare professional as a nurse, doctor, consultant. The NHS are taking these Asians, or they're taking on if they're from a Muslim culture, whatever. They know their background, and they're making them shave their beard if they want to keep their job. It's Discrimination Act that they're sacking them. They're sacking them on the spot there and then if they've got a beard. Absolute discrimination. A lady is allowed to have long hair, regardless if they've got their hair in a hairnet, if the virus can get into hair or get through their hairnet. So the argument for, international bill of rights is all about equalities, and they can't make them shave off their beard or they lose their job. That is ludicrous. How can they? What's the point of having international bill of rights if they're making these ethnic minorities shave their beard? It's an absolutely shambolic episode. It's our law it's supposedly in our law rights that they shave their beard, which is unfair because in their culture, in the Muslim and the Sikh culture, they're taught by their religion to grow their beard, and now they've got to shave it. But they took these NHS professionals take them on for that reason. I think it's quite unfair. Hello there. Hello, Kelsey. You all right, mate? I'm live on YouTube, guys. If you want to come on my YouTube, I'd really, really appreciate it. If you can subscribe as well, it means it means an awful lot. I've got 22 listeners on Castbox right now, and I'm not quite sure I've got on YouTube. But if you subscribe to my YouTube, you can keep updated with my live shows. Thank you very much for all coming through. Appreciate it, guys. We're going to move on. I've done a little live video on.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
That's just a live video from my Facebook, so that, they've got the update there. I'd always do a little preview so they all come through, you know. We filled the jobs with the highest COVID death rates. Manual labourers, nurses and transport workers have some of the highest death rates involved with COVID-19 compared to other professions. New figures suggest the figures differ from men and women, but according to the Office for National Statistics, ONS, manual labour had the highest death rate for men, 699 deaths per 100,000 male workers in the sector. The figures released on Monday show how many people working in different industries died of coronavirus between March and December last year. It calculates a working age population of those aged 20 to 64. Managers and directors, officials, about 25. Professional occupations, 20. Associate, personal, technical operations, about 23, I say. Administrative sector occupations, just 39. Skilled trades occupations, 40. Care and leisure and other service occupants, 64. Sales and customer service occupants, 40 people died. Process plant and machine operators, 50. Elementary occupations, about 65. But statistics caution that the figures do not necessarily mean that their deaths were caused by places they worked. Mild COVID deaths by occupation. Those were the sectors with the highest death rates for men. Elementary occupants, manual labour, 66.3 deaths per 100 males in the sector. I won't go on. For individual teaching occupants, the INS said it was only possible to calculate a reliable rate for secondary education. Teaching professional with 39.2 deaths per 100,000 males and 221.2 per 1,000 females. The INS said these were not statistically significantly different than those on the same age and sex in the wider population. Similar data released in May last year found the male carers, bus drivers, chefs and retail assistants and had the higher rates of death involving coronavirus than workers. Short break, ladies and gentlemen. We come back. We've got BBC Essex live. Got some great shows come through. I want more people to come by and subscribe. You know, we do this day in, day out, quite religiously, and we need more subscribers.
Emblem for what has happened to the rest of at least in England, the rest of those Labour seats tonight.
We're still waiting for Bolsover, but if we get that result soon, we'll bring it to you because Bolsover could be a fascinating seat. Dennis Skinner has been the MP for many years. This is how it voted in 2017, so this is not the current result. But Dennis Skinner, he's 87 years old, MP since 1970, but he could be losing his seat tonight.
Get close to the words of the prophets. God is in there. Moses told his people to put scripture in little boxes and tie it to their heads. Strap the Bible to your forehead. Shout proverbs from the rooftops. Post parables in your mirror.
Yes, we believe actually, Anna, that has just reported a short while ago. Dennis Skinner did lose his seat tonight. The beast of Bolsover has gone. But Anna, you were just talking about the constituencies. Sheffield Hallam, Anna has reported, Labour gained from an independent who took the seat after it was lost by Nick Clegg, who then went off to Facebook after losing the seat in the 2017. Now Labour...
I'm going to run with a show out, ladies and gentlemen. I just want you to know this show is sponsored by O2 Network. O2 providers, ladies and gents. We've got over 23 listeners in the minute. Castbox on and we've got YouTube. We're sponsored by O2 providers. O2 Network have got the best broadband and BT providers got the best home broadband. Talking about O2 network, mobile devices, broadband that you get full network wherever you go in the UK. It's pretty much full network nearly everywhere you go in the UK. It's one of the biggest. It is the biggest network in the United Kingdom. O2 providers. They've got cheap handheld devices, and you can buy an iPad as well. iPad, you pay a one-off payment, and you get pay a one-off payment about £50. You don't have to keep the business contract. You can cancel it within the first month if you've got a mobile phone device. And there's plenty of priorities. Priorities mean free giveaways. You enter a prize draw and get free giveaway with O2 providers. Check with your online O2 guru, see what the latest devices are, and see what the latest tariff deal you can get. It's cheap as chips, really is. I mean, if you pay £25 a month to have anytime calls, or free calls, unlimited texts. You're paying about £25 to £35 a month, depending on what device you might have to pay. And I don't think you have to pay up front free on most devices, so it's well worth checking in with an O2 guru online. Or not, I would say in store, but it's not in store at the moment. I think Tesco's are open, but they don't do O2, so I wouldn't bother with Tesco's. They're not a big brand at the moment. They've only just started out, Tesco's, only a few years ago. So stick with the legit network O2 providers if I was you. Thinking about switching over and you're on free. I've been with free before and I wasn't given a fair deal, crack at the whip. So cancel your network, switch over to O2 providers. Home broadband, if you want a home broadband for everyone, BT, go with BT. Go with BT broadband. They do the cheap deal. If you're on Universal Credit, they do like £10 a month. It's not very good. I've got the fibre optic. I need it because this is what I'm doing. I'm projecting good quality content for everyone every day of the week, as much as I can. I'm trying to keep people occupied. This is live data, live up and coming politics. What's going on in the world of the current climate, economy? Talking about global warming, industrialisation, pollution. We're talking about everything, Anyway, talk about taxes. Business paying taxes in future. You got to plan for your business to stop pollution. Maybe you got to open up a car lot for oil leaks. You got to subsidise oil leaks, clean up, make sure it's clean. You get council workers come around, making sure you're keeping the place clean. You're going to get a fine. You're going to get business rates. So keep your place tidy. So a tidy site is a happy site. So make sure if you're, even the new cars, eco-friendly cars, you got to make sure that the exhaust emissions, they're going to 2050. I think Boris Johnson, Joe Biden saying they're going to be changing the emissions over. So make sure you're getting the latest models, because the catalytic converters ain't going to be on the old cars no more. They're probably waiting to have diesel or fuel cars anymore. Everything's going to be electric or battery operated, perhaps. Anyway, BBC, Essex Live, ladies and gents. It's been an absolute phenomenal show. I'm so happy you've all come through. Almost a broadsheet broadcast. I really, really am happy. Everyone come through. Everyone subscribing to Proclamation News and Gatherings. Absolute populism. It's amazing how we can actually come through and support me day in, day out. It means an absolute substantial amount of thank yous I owe to all of you. Thank you so much. A problem shared is a problem halved, as they say. So while I'm sharing you the good news, you should be supporting me. Support the show, help me share it, help me build, multiply the show. We're going to take some calls at the end of the BBC EastEnders star Danny Dyer's message to daughter Danny after giving birth to her baby boy. Danny gave birth to her son, weighing 7 pounds at the Portland hospital last night. BBC star Danny Dyer congratulated his eldest daughter Danny on the birth of her first child. The 24-year-old former Love Island winner welcomed her baby son into the world last night, Sunday, January 24th. During her pregnancy, Danny updated her Instagram followers every step of the way, from asking for advice on what to pick in a hospital bag to decorating the nursery. New mummy Danny broke her happy news to the world on Sunday, telling fans she welcomed the baby boy after a long labour at the Portland Hospital in London. Sharing the first photo of her son, Danny told her 3.3 million Instagram followers, "After a very long day and night, finally a special little boy arrived 23rd of January 2021, weighing at £7 2 days ago. We are in a complete baby bowl and enjoying every moment. Cannot believe he is ours, completely in the love and so grateful to be his mummy." I mean, giving a birth in this climate must be very, very scary in the hospital, mustn't it, with COVID-19? And, to be relieved that it's born healthy and the mother's healthy as well is even better. She's got to make sure when she goes home she's safe and the baby's kept well. I bet, best wishes go out to Danny Dyer's daughter, Danny, 23. Send all my love to all the mamas to be out of there in lockdown. The best experience ever. We'll never forget this day. Danny shared 3 photos of her clutching her newborn son. A close-up of her son's face and one of her partner, Sammy, commenced kissing his head. Her dad, Danny, shared a photo of Danny in hospital clutching her newborn and Instagram followers how thrilled he was to become a granddad. The post was captioned, "So my baby had a baby. F me. We needed some joy this year. So proud of Danny Dyer. Cannot wait to meet this little beaut." His post had over 225,000 likes and over 2,000 comments. Danny previously revealed he was gutted to not have opportunity to meet his grandchild in hospital due to coronavirus restrictions. He said, "I'm obviously a bit concerned because you're having a pandemic, kid, which rules out me going up to the hospital. I don't think I'm allowed to see my own grandchild. That's very upsetting." This morning, Danny shared several stories on Instagram from her loved ones, congratulating her on the birth of her son. She was not revealed her son's name. That is a emotional time for Danny Dyer's daughter, isn't it? In the pandemic lockdown. What's she going to call her baby? What is she going to call her baby? The pandemic. Call it the pandemic. Now you wouldn't want to risk calling it, the remembrance of the pandemic, calling your baby that. She come out the other end of lockdown. If things we go back to normal, it might have been the best time for someone to have a baby in such circumstances, taking her mind off the lockdown. It's going to be the most healthiest baby if they get through it, because she's got to be in lockdown. People can't misguide his daughter, because you've got to keep in your own bubble as well as to have a baby if it comes out safe. Boris Johnson confirms he will look at relaxing some lockdown rules by mid-February. This is what you're waiting for. Boris Johnson confirms he will look at relaxing some lockdown rules by mid-February. The details remain unclear of what this could look like, he says. Boris Johnson has revealed he'll be looking at relaxing some COVID-19 lockdown rules by mid-February. With the country still under national lockdown restrictions, the Prime Minister confirmed that he would look at potentially relaxing certain aspects of lockdown before February 15th. He added that the government will also be deciding before that day whether schools can reopen, the Mirror has reported. However, he refused to say exactly when schools will actually return and refused to allow classrooms reopening after Easter. It remains unclear what Mr Johnson meant by looking at easing restrictions, but it is likely this refers to discussion rather than actually easing, promising 2 weeks' notice to schools, teachers and parents. The PM was asked on a visit to a vaccination site in North London. MPs and parents and teachers want to know a rough plan here, and they are absolutely no idea when schools are going to reopen. It's the situation you're in. The situation you're in. You just have no idea when they're going to reopen. The PM VCI groups. 1-4, all over 70 children, NHS and care staff and care home residents, and going to be vaccinated by February the 15th. But before, we'll be looking at potential relaxing of some measures. But he added, don't forget this country had made huge progress in reducing infections. I think the people want to see another big surge in infections. The Prime Minister added, restrictions on schools and people will go on a little bit more. He added, we're going to be looking at where we've got to on February the 15th, where, as you know, we hope to have vaccinated about 15 million people across the whole of the UK. The JVCI groups, 1-4, the rural priority groups, will be deciding before then whether we can be getting schools back. But I can tell schools obviously will be a priority, but I don't think anybody would want to see restrictions lifted so quickly whilst the rate of infection is still very high. So as the lead on another great spread of an infection, he told he was falling to guarantee schools will be open before Easter, the PM replied. You mustn't assume that. There you go, ladies and gents. Oh, my shoulders. We're going back inside Westminster live. Oh, see what Mr. Hancock is saying now. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. A bit of a football update for you. I mean, that's a bit different, isn't it? Football. The Premiership, the Premier League. Frank Lampard. Chelsea sacked manager with Thomas Tuchel expected to replace him. Thomas Tuchel expected to replace him, sorry. Chelsea have sacked manager Frank Lampard after 18 months in charge, with former Paris Saint-Germain boss Thomas Tuchel expected to replace him. Lampard, 42, leaves the club 9th in the Premier League after last week's defeat at Leicester City, having won their first past 5 league matches. His final game was Sunday's 3-1 FA Cup 4th round win against Luton. Lampard was appointed on a 3-year contract when he replaced Maurizio Sarri at Stamford Bridge on July 2019. In a statement released on Monday night, Lampard said he was disappointed not to have had the time to take the club forward, and added that it had been a huge privilege and an honour to manage the club. When I look on this role, I understood the challenges that lay ahead in a difficult time for the football club, he continued. I'm proud of the achievements that we had, and I'm proud of the academy players that made their step in the first team and performed so well. They are the future of the club. Chelsea are hopeful that the new manager, Tuchel, will be on the bench on Wednesday's Premier League game against Wolves at Stamford Bridge. He will not be exempt from coronavirus quarantine, but if Tuchel tests negative on entry to the United Kingdom and then negativity again in order to enter the Premier League club's bubble, he will be granted exemptions by the Football Association for attending matches and training. He will still have to serve a quarantine period outside of those environments, which will last 5 days. A difficult decision. Former Chelsea midfielder Lampard guided them to 4th place in the FA Cup final in the first season in charge, and a 3-1 win against Leeds in early December put the club top of the Premier League. However, the Blues have suffered 5 defeats in the past 8 league games, as many as they had in their previous 23. In a statement, Chelsea said this has been a very difficult decision and not one that the owner and the board have taken lightly. We are grateful to Frank for what he has achieved in his time as head coach of the club. However, recent results and performances have not met the club's expectations, leaving the club mid-table without a clear path to sustained improvement. There never can be a good time to part ways with a club legend such as Frank, but after lengthy deliberation and consideration, decided change it needed now to give the club time to improve performances and results this season. I mean, what is the bear of thought to think it could be the manager's fault that they're dropping points? Or is it just, it could be the fact that they haven't got their home fans behind them at home games, They're playing at all these different clubs. There's not the spectators there. They haven't got the if you're say I'm put myself in the perspective of professional boxer, you ain't got no one chanting your name, it's you and your other opponent. You got no one pushing you through the gears, have you? I mean, Frank Lampard on his own as a manager in this current climate, is it actually his fault? I mean, theoretically, think of they're used to playing in front of I don't know. To us 80,000, 100,000 fans, whatever their stadium holds, I don't know. They've got no atmosphere there, have they? They've got no atmosphere in the stadium. They haven't had it all season. How hard must it be for players to get a bit of enthusiasm behind them? They've got no one going, hey, come on Chelsea, singing. It's going to be hard. You've got no motivation behind you. You've got nothing driving you forward. You've got nothing, a motive to push you and strive your team forward to win a game. I'm just thinking that, I've been playing in a lot of different sports, and I'm thinking from my own perspective, when I had, a young teenager, we had all the local girls cheering our team on. It used to push us to play better because everyone's caught cheering your team out. And when you get the ball, come on, Justin. Even when I've done boxing, it's exactly the same thing. It's driving you forward, the players forward. That's what I'm saying. They haven't got it this time. So the dip in their performance could be something, these up and coming teams that are looking to beat Chelsea are gonna, because they're not there to impress. They're not there to impress the audience, because they never had much of an audience. They're an up and coming team in the Premier League. It's a big step, so they're going to be beating. They're going to be the underdog. They're going to be beating the top flight of teams, aren't they? Because the top flight of teams are used to the triumphantness of all. That's what I'm getting at. Anyway, moving on. That is my scientific point of view, and I think it's definitely a good point of view and all. Owner Roman Abramovich said Lampard's status as an important icon of the club remains undiminished despite his dismissal. There was a very difficult decision for the club, not least because I have an excellent personal relationship with Frank and I have the utmost respect for him, said Abramovich. He is a man of great integrity and has the highest of work ethics. However, under current circumstances, we believe it is best to change managers. Lampard is probably one of the best Chelsea English players to ever step in, foot inside the club. That's why he was manager. To let him go is a big, bit of a shock. Lampard did not sign a single player during his first season as the club were operating under the transfer embargo, but spent more than 200 million on 7 major signings last summer, including 45 million on Leicester's Ben Chilwell and 71 million on midfielder Kai Havertz from Bayer Leverkusen. It is the most Chelsea have spent in one summer, eclipsing the 186 million they invested at the start of the 2018 season. Lampard is Chelsea's all-time record scorer with 211 goals for the club between 2001 and 14, and also joined 7th on the list of most capped England players, having made 106 appearances for the country over 15 years from 1999. During his 13 seasons as a player at Stamford Bridge, he made 648 appearances and 11 major trophies, including the Premier League titles and the 2012 Champions game. His first managerial job was at Derby. In his one season in charge, they reached the Championship playoff final, where they lost to Aston Villa. Lampard became the 10th full-time manager appointed by Abramovich since the billionaire bought the club in 2003. According to football finance journalist Kieran Maguire, Abramovich has spent 110 million on sacking managers before Lampard's dismissal. Having finished with 66 points last season after 20 wins and 12 defeats, Chelsea have lost 6 times in their opening 9 league games this season. Lampard's points per game average of 1.67 in the lowest of any permanent Chelsea manager in the Premier League during the Abramovich era. Only Andre Villas-Boas, 47.5%, has a worse win rate, and Lampard 52.4% in all competitions among permanent Chelsea bosses. In contrast, Jose Mourinho's win rate in all competitions during his first spell was in charge 67.3%, while Sarri, Antonio Conte, Avram Grant, Carlo Ancelotti and Claudio Reyna all had win rates over 60%. Analysts' lack of confidence among squad key to sacking. Lampard was sacked because the club could not see him reversing a slide in form. After qualifying for the Champions League last season and spending more than 200 million on players in the summer, the aim is to campaign was to close gap on the leaders, but has not been achieved. Although the links was made between Tuchel's heritage and the poor form of fellow Germans Kai Havertz and Timo Werner, the change is made because of the lack of confidence among the whole squad. It is hoped that Tuchel can rejuvenate a team that is 5 points outside the top four, and an announcement could be made within 24 hours. The decision to sack Lampard was very difficult for Abramovich. He has never made a statement when changing Chelsea's manager previously. In the end, Lampard paid for his relative inexperience as a manager, which cannot be said of Tuchel. Best of reaction to Lampard's sacking. Manchester City boss Guardiola. People talk about projects and ideas. They don't exist. You have to win or you'll be replaced. I'm not judging Chelsea's decision. I respect their decision, but our tour world is to win as much as possible. Hope to see Frank soon go to a restaurant with him, and when lockdown is finished. West Ham boss David Moyes. I'm disappointed with Frank, as I saw him one of the most up-and-coming young English managers in the country. It's a big thing. We try to encourage our own British managers into the big leagues if we can. I'm sure he'll come back and learn from it. He did a great job last year. He did a really good job with so many youngsters coming through the academy. I seemed a little bit harder. It seemed a little bit harder for him this year. I'm sure he'll take time off, come back and get better. Leicester boss Brendan Rodgers. Clearly, I'm really sad for Frank and his staff. I know how much the club needs to him. Looking at the squad and how young they are, they need time. He hasn't given that time. I really feel for him. He did great at Derby. He had the courage to step out of an amazing career and could take an easier route. It was a job he couldn't turn down, even though he didn't have a lot of experience. Results haven't been what they would have wanted, but I feel it's a job needed time. Crystal Palace. Roy Hodgson, it saddens me. I thought he did an excellent job last season. I was rather hoping that the idol of the fans and Chelsea legend that he is, he'd get longer than 18 months. Managers who have short stays at Chelsea have gone on to good careers elsewhere. When you're sacked for the first time, it is a devastating blow. There's no doubt he has a pedigree to be a very good manager. Former Chelsea striker Chris Sutton speaking on BBC 5 Live News Monday Night Club. It's 52 days since Chelsea were top of the Premier League, and 48 days ago that Chelsea had been on an unbeaten run for 17 games. So in the space of 48 days, the owner has decided to write Frank Lampard off. How are we ever going to know if Frank Lampard is a good manager? You only ever really learn about people and their characteristics and traits is when they go through a little bit of adversity, and Frank has gone through a little bit of adversity. Frank has basically been sacked for the owner expectations. I feel sorry for Frank because he's a club legend. There are 5 points of 4th place, but the bottom line is that the owner wants to win the Premier League, and that was going to be the pressure. Chelsea should have been more loyal. We know the owner's track record. He is ruthless, he is brutal, and guillotine Frank. The guillotine is what, basically chopping someone's head off in one of those guillotine things. It's a sad shame, isn't it? Because, like I say, it's the pandemic, it's the coronavirus, it's the anxiety soaring through families. People ain't going to be playing their full potential, and the only people that have been playing their full potential are the underdogs. Because, like I said, they're going to these top stadiums. I think it's a bit of a ludicrous. It's a bit of a ludicrous situation, if you're asking me, just to jump straight in that bandwagon. We've only got a few more minutes, ladies and gents. It's been amazing, slightly different formation, and we had a bit of boxing yesterday. Boxing updates with a couple of local lads for a change. We talk about the Rettendon murders, boys. Rettendon murders. I know Rettendon murders. The Essex Boys. Rettendon murders. Essex Boys murdered. Here we go. Rettendon murderers. Essex Boys murdered Jack Holmes to release from prison. Who had 5 shooters has been cleared for the release from prison following parole board hearing. Jack Holmes, 59, was given a 3 life sentences and ordered to serve on his murder conviction, but has always protested his innocence. He and his friend Michael Steele, now 76, were found guilty of 12 shooters of Tony Tuchel, 38, Pat Tate, 37, and Craig Wolf, 26, whose bodies were found in Range Rover on Country Lane in Rettendon, Essex in December 1905. All three of them were blasted by a shotgun from close range. Lion blood covered and slumped in the vehicle until they were discovered by the two local farmers the next morning. By a month, where he gave evidence via video link, reports the Mirror. I mean, we're talking about men's rehabilitations again. What takes a climate change in your thinking mechanism to think, today I'm going to go and take someone's head off, I'm going to shoot someone? Is it chemistry imbalance of alcoholism, narcotics, you think? We do know that these guys were probably more likely intoxicated when they'd done something stupid. We've seen the film. This is films that, we're guessing outside the box. We don't know the qualitative evidence. Maybe when they got pulled in, they knew, they knew their lifestyle. They knew what it's up to. They do further research into things, don't they? So the film is probably pretty much similar to what happened. I'm surmising. A summary of the decision said, after considering the circumstances of offending, progress made while at the hearing. The panel was satisfied that Mr. Holmes was suitable for release. Strict conditions have been implemented, banning Holmes from entering certain areas or contacting relatives of the victims. He did not commit the index offences, and as a result, little or no work had been completed to address offending behaviour. Mr. Holmes had completed work to explore victim empathy and had developed his education and employment skills. Since being in open prison, there had been no concerns reported about his behaviour, which the panel was told had been exemplary. Holmes had been granted temporary release over the past few years, and witnesses recommended that he should not be let out of licence, the panel heard. They heard the victim impact statements from relatives of 3 murdered victims. Doubts remained safety of the convictions, and both men still deny involvement in the murders, which become known as the Essex Boys murderers, following the release of 2000 film of the same starring Sean Bean. Holmes has applied 2019 to the Criminal Case Review Commission to have his conviction overturned. Steele and Holmes were convinced and convicted of evidence, and convicted fraudster Darren Nichols, who claims to have been the getaway driver. Detective spent 30 hours in total questioning Nichols. Meanwhile, Steele and Holmes' lawyers claimed they had fabricated the story. London villain Billy Jasper had already admitted being the real driver. He told police that he was paid $5,000 to take a hitman to a murder scene. However, Jasper was never changed. Ladies and gents, it's Proclamation News and Gatherance. Please subscribe to the show. Absolutely phenomenal how many listeners have come through tonight. Over 25 listeners. I'm doing this on a day-to-day basis. It really means an awful substantial amount of thanksgiving to the people who come through. If I give you all a lovely gift for all the time you come through, it'd be great. Or even you guys give me a little gift and being better. Help me, encourage me more to produce better content day in, day out. You try and read out loud and keep people occupied for hour and a half, 2 hours at a time. Then I have to produce it onto social media. It takes, it's like 4 or 5 hours spent, and it's a philanthropist effort that I'm doing this, my day-to-day regime, to keep you guys occupied. You're sitting there at your desk, rather than reading out, you can just sit there and relax and listen to me talk out the good news. Front bench politics, my local constituency, criminology, what's going on in the area, what's going on around Westminster, climate change, global warming, business rates, pollution rates, globalisation, you name it. Thank you all for coming through. Absolute populism. It's Proclamation News and Gatherance with the prodigious, the prominent Professor Johnson at PNG. God bless, take care, and good night. Thank you for coming through. Please share, guys. Please subscribe. Thank you for everyone on Castbox. I really appreciate your time spent.